Good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Dale, the Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Mount Pleasant, and in the absence of the mayor, I'll be conducting the meeting tonight. And at this time, I will ask everyone if they would please stand, and I'll ask Councilman Henry Chappelle to lead us in a word of prayer, followed by Councilwoman Sproul will lead us in the pledge. Shall we stand? Thank you. You can be seated. Again, thank you everyone for being here tonight. This is a special called meeting tonight, and our first item on the agenda is going to be concerning our budget workshop. And at this time, I'll ask Mr. Thatcher if he has a few words here, and then we'll ask our Finance Director, Ms. McKell Reeves, to come forward and make her presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We just want to tell you that with a lot of work with the department directors and with McKell and her staff, our budget that we have tonight is a balanced budget. With the things in there we think we need, with the upgrade to the pay plan for all departments, not just one or two, but for all departments. We have in there the other working things that we need. We had to take some out, but we have it in there. So I just wanted to let you know it's balanced. It's balanced with a request or proposed 3.5% tax increase. But with the values going up, the rate drops, and so our proposed rate tonight is less than the rate we're in this year. So the rate, and you're gonna see that, but I just wanted to let you know as we start to know that the budget we're talking about, both utility, the tax generated general fund, the street fund, and the other funds are all balanced with a little bit of fund balance also. And McKell will go over that with you, and we'll take questions as we go.
Thank you, Mr. Thatcher. At this time, I'll ask our Finance Director, McKell Reeves, to come forward and make her presentation.
For another budget year with me, I know it's been hard this year, but I want to thank y'all very much. First, I wanted to go over all of our fund balance policies. As y'all know, we try every year to increase our fund balance. This year, the budget does contain a $41,000 increase in the general fund and $100,000 to increase our fund balance in the water and sewer fund. So every year we do want a budget to add to our fund balance, and so that's what we've done this year. And we hope to add to our fund balance this year for the 2022 budget. But going into 2023, we actually budgeted to add money to our fund balance.
So we budget some, but at the end of the year, we're going to have unspent funds. It's even going to increase that amount. So when we get it audited, we'll be able to tell you what our audited fund balance is, and it'll be higher than this.
I don't know, it's not working. Going into the general fund, we, in our initial budget workshop, we went over where the appraisals was, but during that time, we still had almost $26 million in outstanding protest. When I projected, I projected that we would probably get about a third of those protests. We ended up getting almost all of those protests, which actually brought our appraised value up to $1.3 billion, which was actually a 17.61% increase for the year. New improvements was about $23 billion. So overall, we ended up over last year from 1.1, we ended up to 1.3. Our property tax is 26% of our general fund revenue. Over the last 10 years, you can see we've had a consistently downward spike of our tax rate. This year, we are recommending a rate of 0.360285, and last year's rate was 0.3620. The no new revenue rate is 0.35315, and the 3.5% increase is the 0.3602, and then the amount subject to voter approval and petition is the 0.4265. So we have built this budget that is balanced on the rate of the 0.360285, which is the rate that is a little bit less than last year's rate. The M&O rate, that is the rate that's used to fund the day-to-day operations. It's also the unrestricted revenue in the general fund. And the council can adopt a rate that's up to the voter approval rate. But you do have to propose a rate for the maintenance and operations separate. And so the amount recommended for the maintenance and operation this year is the 0.261505. And as you can see, the amount that we're proposing for maintenance and operation is considerably less than what it has been in prior years. Tax-supported debt, we have approximately $16.8 million in tax-supported debt. Our next year's debt payment is $1.2 million, and the tax rate that is needed to support that debt is 0.095980. And this is the debt rate that we need to propose tonight so that we can raise enough money to adopt that $1.2 million. On the utility fund, water sales again continues to be our largest source of utility revenue at 56%, then followed by sewer charges and then solid waste. We didn't really do anything different in the utility fund than last year. Everything still remains consistent. Our debt service.
I do see here the miscellaneous revenue is increased to 1%. Of course, I know that's not a lot, but where did that come from?
The miscellaneous revenue, I just basically combined a lot of different things and put them in one, but we have NSF fees that are in that number, and then we have some other miscellaneous.
Just for the public and the council here, where was that included before? I'm sure it was less than 1%, so it was a 0.20 here and a 0.30 there, but roughly, I mean, where was it in 2022, I guess, for us to see?
Generally, if it was less than 1%, it wasn't incorporated on the graph last year, and so it's just this year, it's a little bit more. It's kind of gotten up a little bit more this year.
And the bonds proceeds went down to 0 from 3%, correct?
Last year, we used the bond proceeds to purchase the sewer jetter truck that we used for Anthony, the $446,000, and so therefore this year I'm not projecting any bond proceeds at this time. The council may, going forward, decide to do a project or something that we may want to issue bond proceeds for, but going into this budget, we are not projecting any bond proceeds.
The difference is, looking at here real quick, is probably an increase of, last year we went from 54 on water percent to 56 this year. We went from bond from last year 3% to 0 in miscellaneous, so we're still 3 or 4% better off this year, correct, within this fund?
Yes, sir. And a lot of that's to do with last year we didn't have Pilgrim's water rate for the whole year, because we didn't implement their water rate until January, so and we didn't implement the water rate increase until December, so we'll have that water rate increase for the entire year for both Pilgrims and the residential water rate increase.
Thank you.
For the utility fund debt service, the city paid off about $2.4 million in principal and about $1.7 million in interest last year of our debt service. Our total debt's about $77 million right now, and our revenue debt service is about 3.2. We have GEO debt payment amount due of 1.9 million and a revenue debt service payment due of 1.3 million. And all that is budgeted in our current water and sewer budget.
From a couple of years ago, when we changed with our bond council, we changed some of these interest rates, and got a lot, rebuilt them out, and I mean, we saved a tremendous amount of money, guys and gals, by refunding, especially with what we're seeing rates do now. We knew that was coming, just didn't know when. But here we are, so we're very fortunate in the money that we saved in those decisions back then.
Yes, we did. We saved a lot of those rates, went from 4.5 down to like 1.2 and 1.4. So we were very fortunate to get the rates we did, even on the $60 million bond that we bid out for the project for the sewer plant. We ended up getting a 1.25%. If we were to try and go and bid that out right now, there would be no way. It would be 3 to 3.5, maybe even 4%. So we were really lucky to have borrowed we were lucky to have borrowed the money when we did.
We haven't bid that project out yet, so we the way bids are coming in so much higher than what we think, we're kind of concerned about what that's going to look like.
But we're locked in on that, underneath that interest rate right now, so that part of it, yeah.
Yes, and that's what I was going to say. I was going to save this for at the end, but I just say that we opened the bids on the Civic Center fix. Remember today, and remember the estimate the engineers told us was between $250,000 and $300,000. That bid came in today at $567,000, and there was only one bidder. So we're going to recommend to reject all bids, all bid, and go out and look at it again.
On this utility debt service, the outstanding GEO debt service is 60 million, almost 61. Does that include that bond that so we're already paying on our sewer plant and we hadn't even started it? That's good. So we're already including the pay down on that amount.
Yes, ma'am. As you recall, there was also a couple other projects rolled into that sewer plant as well, with a couple of sewer line extensions and water line extensions, which those have been the basin sewer line, and I believe the water tower rehab that we just finished on School Street was also part of that $60 million as well. So those have been completed. So we are paying down on these bonds. And we are doing some design and engineering work that we're paying Lenny for right now to get done. So yeah, we are paying for it, as we go. So it is a good thing that we are paying it down already. But only other thing I had to say is just to let you know that the budget is balanced. The tax rate is set just under last year's rate. We've included all of your directives from the last budget workshop that we've had, and we've tried to include everything that the directors need for this next year.
Keyword need.
And you do have a copy of the budget in front of you, the proposed budget.
How much was last year's budget, and how much is their proposed budget in actual money total, including everything?
I believe last year's budget, including the bond proceeds and everything, was was $99 million. And this year, it's around 78 million because we've spent down some of those bond proceeds and stuff.
And I realize those numbers, but take out the bond money, the actual money that it takes to run the city, the payroll, the expenses, the repair, everything we do. Can you help me with that number?
It's last year's budget was around 32 million, this year's around 34 million. So it's about roughly a $2 million increase.
And the percentage that we added, we went, for fund this coming year is 19.4 of expenditures for 2021 and 18.9 for 2022. What are we looking at on the 23 again? What we added to the general fund?
I'm sorry, can you rephrase your question?
We added to a general fund, it was 19 this year.
We're projecting, right now, we had $200,000 that we were projecting in our fund balance to add to it. That's what we had budgeted to add to it. We have had some excessive legal expenses this year, so we'll have to see where that washes out in the end, but we are still trying to be really conservative in the general fund and still maintain a increase in the reserve.
Yeah, I think I mentioned we were looking everywhere we could for some revenue, and where we were like trying to budget a couple $100,000 for the reserve, we didn't do that much. We cut back a little bit. Also, on the sales tax, I think you and I talked, we normally budget at 8%, even though historically it's 12 and 14%. But we eased that the proposed up today, up this year to 10% to help. We think that's realistic, and we think it's not as conservative as we've been, but we think it's conservative enough, and we think we'll realize that. It helped us get the revenue we need to close the gap on the budget.
But we've been consistent on our sales tax increase over the last 4 to 5 years. I can't recite the figures on it, but I know we've been substantially above each year. And a lot of this new industry that we're bringing in that's generating some sales tax. One thing is the facility out here by the Big Tex, the new travel center. I mean, that brings in a lot of sales tax revenue there that's strictly passing up down the interstate. That it's not like you're taking away from another area in town. You're grabbing that off of the interstate that would be stopping in another town, is what that is. So, I mean, quite a bit of stuff like that's helped us with sales tax this year. Last year, what was our percentage that we budgeted for last year? Do you recall?
Last year we budgeted for an 8% increase, and we ended up coming in about 17% over.
What would you say the average, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but what was the average in the last 4 or 5 years was our sales tax over what we budgeted? Would you say 2%, 4%? I mean, I'm talking about above what we budgeted. So we budgeted what, 8% or so, and we've come in at anywhere 12 to.
Yeah, I went and did an average of that before I adjusted it up. We went back and looked at where we were budget versus percentage wise, and we always come in anywhere from 5 to 7% over budget. So we've always been very, very conservative on our numbers, and we felt really comfortable with moving it up to the 10%. I still wanted to be real conservative with the rest of our remaining numbers, and we didn't bump up any numbers unless we've looked back over the last 4 to 5 years to see where those numbers are coming in.
Good. Well, as you know, that's been one of my concerns each year, is that we don't get out of our means. What goes up sometimes can come back down, and normally it does, and it levels off, so we don't want to get caught anticipating every year. But I think we've got a good track record now, is a point I'm trying to make, over the last 4 or 5 years, that this is that we are okay with this. I mean, it's definitely a good trend here that's surpassing what our expectations are every year. Correct?
Yes, and as you know, we monitor this every month. Y'all, I mean, we've got a graphs and charts that we give y'all to council every month, and when those sales tax numbers come in, we can watch it, and if we start seeing a downward trend, at that point we can make adjustments at that time. So I feel very comfortable with our numbers, and I feel comfortable with finance's ability to, and management's ability to watch our revenue and to make sure that if something does start coming in, less than what we projected, that we can take action needed to adjust our budget.
One thing just to remind you, and I'm sure y'all remember this, but in the calendar year 2020, from January to December, that was the COVID year that everything hit hard. And a lot of cities, especially big cities that depend on their sales tax, a lot of them did not come in. They made less money in their revenue than they did the year before, and it hurt a lot of cities. Our sales tax, and a lot of it has to do with how we manage and try to keep things open. But if you remember, we were still 2 to 3% over in the COVID months than the year previous in 2019. So we not only didn't make the same thing, we made 2 to 3% more. And then in December of 2020, we were 14% over the December in 2019. So we felt that was pretty good. Then as soon as we got out in 2021, it jumped back up for us, and then this year too. So we've always done well when other cities maybe struggle. We seem to do well.
Could you explain the pay raise increase for employees within this budget, please?
I'll be glad to. As true to advertised, we felt like it, because we had the issues with the police and that came up earlier in the year. It was hard to recruit and difficult to retain. And the rest of the city, it seemed that the fire seemed to have their pay plan in shape, but the other city employees, we had them all down on the left-hand side of the grades, grade 1, 2. Most of them were, a lot of them 2 and 3. And the problem is because we always gave them the cost of living, but we never also gave them a step. For years we've done that. And so we had 10, and we had 5, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15-year people in step 2 or 3 or 4. And then we're hiring new hires come in at 1, and then after a year they go to 2, kind of routinely, or after the probation. So we had them down making the same thing. It really caused a lot of, it was congested. So what we did this year's budget, we tried to implement it, and we had it ready to implement like this in October of 2020. But because of the COVID year, we didn't do it. But so what we done this year is we've looked at what their years with the city are, and moved them out to the grade where they're supposed to be. And then we've also proposed, because our plan is a couple of years behind other cities, we've proposed a 10% market adjustment. So some employees that were paid okay are getting a 10% market increase. Some who we've moved 1 step or 2 others are getting more than the 10%, but it's where they should be and should have been in the past but aren't. So it's like we're catching up this year. And then after this year, we think it'll get back into a more normal thing with whatever the CIP is, plus a step. Everybody should move a step if they're here a year, and then whatever the CIP you get. So we're proposing where we put people, and we're proposing a 10% market adjustment. And it's in this budget. It will be well received by our employees. Now, the department directors know. I don't think any of the employees know anything unless they're listening tonight. But it will be well received and probably well earned, I think, by most of the employees that have worked hard for.
All those little smaller ones that were missed the last time have been corrected this time, right?
Those are the ones that moved the most, 2 or 3, out.
We'd had some statements made earlier in the year that, in 2020, that people didn't get a raise. I know we didn't give them a raise on their check, but I just want to make sure that the citizens know that the people we're taking care of because everybody that worked for us during the COVID 2020 received COVID bonus checks from us that year. And I think that was a misconception I got from some of the citizens, is I got some feedback saying y'all didn't give raises that particular year. No, we didn't, but everybody received a COVID bonus check that year. And, but I'm glad that we're kind of getting everybody up to where they need to be, for now.
Thank you, Galen. That is true. And the other thing we did, before the federal government mandated it, but we didn't, when people went out with COVID or had to quarantine or whatever, we kept paying their salary. And then that's what they did. They reimbursed us for paying their salaries, but after we'd already done it. And then we're still doing that today. But just wanted to say that we did try to take care of employees that were here every day during one of the worst times in my career.
There was no sick leave had to be taken by employees, or no vacation time or anything like that during that time. We've also, as everyone knows, we've added more holidays for the employees too, which is, I think, is a big plus, and we're happy to do that.
And just to emphasize, during that period, the federal government gave guidelines as to who could receive it, and many of the city employees were left out. We as a city went back and gave all of those city employees that same amount of money in the year of 2020.
That's what I was saying. Like I said, I got some feedback on that during the middle of the year, and we told everybody we would fix it at budget, and we fixed it at budget. But we also, when you back up, I just want to make sure the citizens understand the saying, if you do what's right when nobody's looking. We had already fixed 2020 a different way, and so we did what was right to begin with. I just want everybody to know that.
Yeah, we didn't turn our head on them. Got Mikhail also, and thank you for the comments from all the council and Mr. Thatcher on that. On the fuel, I know we probably budgeted hopefully considerably higher. We're seeing fuel come down some now. We don't know how long that's going to last naturally, but we are seeing it dropping. But you've budgeted that this year. Of course, we amended during the year just for the public. So I'm sure you budgeted that. Hopefully we'll come out to the good on that by the end of the year, that we'll stay down. I'm hoping we go a whole lot lower than what it is now. But I'm just saying, I know you've had to budget up there for what we have been paying for, which has been astronomical. Records all over the United States, including us, for what we've been paying.
Yes, we took a look at where we project end up at the end of the year based on what we're spending on a monthly basis for fuel, and the last 2 months have been, pretty high. So I kind of took those numbers and projected those out through the rest of the year, and then created an average for the year on where I think fuel's going to be, and then added about 3% to that number to get a very comfortable number with where I think fuel's going to be for the city. On the airport, the way they do their fuel is when they purchase their fuel, they also turn around and sell it. So the margin for them is pretty close. So really, what you budget for fuel, you pretty much have to budget in expense. So theirs was fairly easy to do.
I just want to tell you, I appreciate that observation, Mayor, because every year inflation hits us. As you all know, it costs us more to do business. It's a little bit more accentuated now because the cost of things have just gone up so astronomically. But I really appreciate you pointing that out, because not only do we look for ways to increase, like to pay more for our employees and that, but and health care. I want to mention health care, but we also have to budget in the increases of stuff we buy, like you guys do at your place. And I appreciate that observation, because I think that goes unsaid sometimes.
Well, it's everything. This is a big business, is what this is. I mean, the city is a business. And when we pay, I bought cartridges the other day for some copies at my office. And if you haven't bought any lately, let me tell you, they've gone up astronomical here in the last 6 months. And it has here for what you guys buy too. So everything from copy paper to the ink pens to whatever you buy has gone up, just like it has at our homes.
Eggs were $4.60 a dozen this last weekend at Walmart. So I mean, yeah, it just it's extravagant what's happened. I'd like you want.
No, talking about prior years, though, it distracts me. I want to make sure we back up a couple of years. We went, the last 2 years prior to this, we went to the no new revenue, less than the no new revenue. We actually went less than the no new revenue rate. And the year before that, I think we had a very small increase like we're having this year. I just want people to understand, it's still less than so if your value didn't go up, you're gonna be paying less. If your value went up, you're gonna be paying a little more. But the deal is we fight this every single year, and we're not doing it fly by the night, see your pants type deal. We fight every year. And so the prior 2 years, when we went below the no new revenue rate, it put us in a position that this year we had to take a small increase. You can't do it every year without taking some increase at some point, but I just want to make sure all the citizens understand that.
That's so true. Let me just read here concerning our tax rate, just real quick for the public. The city of Mount Pleasant proposes a decrease in the rate for the fiscal year 2023 from .3620 to .360285, a .0047% decrease. This is the third consecutive year the city's tax rate has been lowered. In previous years, the city maintained a tax rate of 0.3712 for 2 years and maintained a rate of 0.3437 for 4 years prior to that. The city has a firm commitment to provide this excellent service with the minimum increases that we can do. So that kind of puts the figures to what Councilman Adams said.
Another significant thing is that under state law, because we take less than, we keep it low, it's accumulative. So then we can take the 3.5% plus some of that we didn't go higher without a fear of a rollback, but election. But the point that you just made is that we look where we can cut, so we don't have to. We take the minimum amount we need to. So we weren't saying, hey, we can get it high, let's do that. And we had to cut some things. There's some things that we'd like that in, we didn't put in. We found other ways to do it. And I appreciate those comments because those are right on point.
Mr. Thatcher, I was gonna bring up another point since we're talking budget here. When it comes to water, do we have any concerns as a city as far as our current water levels? As far as, are we at a point since we've had lack of rain? Are we good to go? I've had some citizens ask me about, are we gonna have to ration water at some point because we haven't had rain? Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, the lakes are down, but we, and so our percentage may be down a little bit, what we can take, but we bought $1 million worth more, which I think is 20,000 acre feet more. So we're up at about 38 or 40 acre feet, and we're using 9 or 10. Right. So we're not anywhere near what we got. So we think we're good. But again, we need to pray for rain because the lakes are down, and that does.
We're very blessed with this water, and I was a big advocate at that time on the council for us to retain that water. That not only do we have water, and if we keep this water, we'll have abundance of water, hopefully. And not only that, we've got affordable water with so many areas right here in Texas. You don't have to go to California. It's right here in Texas. So we're very fortunate with that. And that was some great foresight back years ago in the 60s, way before most of you was born. I think Mr. Thatcher and I was born then. But that was some good planning then. So we've got water now.
Well, another reason for just bringing that conversation up is I see more and more homeowners running their sprinkler systems a lot more because of lack of rain. They don't want their pretty green grass drying up on them, so they got a big investment there. And so that was one of the concerns, though, through several other citizens who Let them water, right?
In the Metroplex, they're already conserving and saying you can't water but once a week or once every other week or something. So, and there's a $2,000 fine if you're caught doing it.
Even in the Austin area, they've cut watering out 100%. You can't even water. My son lives down that way, and they've cut it completely out. I've had that same question this week, and I had that same conversation with that gentleman. I told him, I said, we don't worry about water a whole lot because we had some people that bought water from it for us, and I said, and we are set for water. And I said, if y'all will just one of these days, there's going to be some companies come in here and need water, and we have the water to sell them. And we are going to reap the benefits from that soon.
I'm a firm believer that it's not a matter of when they come. I mean, if they come, it's when, because it's going to bring it in here, because you've got to have the water. We're seeing that more and more just here in the last year, I'm going to say, just for the public knowledge. But the water is a big issue.
Started my career in Abilene back in the 70s. There were engineering studies done about how to get more water. And by the way, they pointed out that Northeast Texas has all the water in the state. They were trying to figure out how to capture it and pipe it to places. And they said that the day's going to come when, and this is in the late 70s, but the day's going to come when we're not worried about how much it costs. We're worried about whether we can even have any. But up where we are here, and based on the water y'all purchased or somebody purchased, it was very forward thinking, and we are in a lot better shape than a lot of places.
As long as you have water and fiber, they will come.
And sewer, but in that order, yeah.
And Councilman Chappelle is not talking about fiber in your food.
Let me tell you about our health care. Most of you guys know our health care, we got bids, and the bid came in with a 3.5% decrease over the health care last year. It's a similar plan though. It's a $5,000 to $10,000 deductible, and it's 100% over that. But one of the things that we did, and we talked to you about, and you all mentioned to us to look at, is looking at self-funding. And we're looking at that in our new third-party Murphy Homes, the guys that are our consultants on it. They think that it's very possible that we could do that maybe a year out or so. But one thing we have done is self-funded our deductible. And if you remember we're currently under by the way, Perla, have they talked to you yet? They're going to get back with us a day or two later, but, Our meeting's tomorrow. But by IRS, because we have an HSA, we don't contribute, we have the employees contribute if they want to. But by IRS standards, we have to have a $1,400 deductible and then a $2,800 for families. And that's where we're on now. Next year, the IRS goes up to $1,500 and $3,000. But what I want to do, and I've asked my staff, and they agree with me, is to do away with the HSA participation. If anybody has an HSA and money in it, they can use it. But we're not going to allow anybody we're going to do away with it. That way we don't have to come under the IRS minimum on the deductible. So we're looking at a $750 and a $1,500. I suggested a $750 and a $12, and then I was told that the family has to be twice as much as the other one. So we're looking at $750 and $1,500, and we're going to have a meeting tomorrow. They're going to see if they think it increases our risk, but we think we might could start there. My concern is wherever we start, it's only going to go up from there over the years. So we might as well enjoy a year or two of lower deductible. So, and then we're going to work on a plan to maybe have a letter so that you don't, right now you have to spend it and then get reimbursed by the city for it. We're going to try to work on a plan where they will bill the city instead of the employee, so that they don't have to, they'll only have to do the $750 or the $1,500. So we think we're heading the right direction there.
Well, Ed, again, I appreciate y'all going, and taking an extra look at that for the city, you know, for the citizens, or, I'm sorry, for the employees and the staff, so appreciate that.
Okay, at this time, do we have any other comments or concerns on the budget? Mikhail, thank you for putting this together, and the whole staff. I know you're their front person tonight, and we know there's been a lot of hard work from a lot of individuals behind the scene putting it together. Thank you, Mr. Thatcher, for what you've done. Thank you, department heads, for working with on this budget like you have, and anything else, Mikhail?
No, sir, I do wanna also thank my directors and Mr. Thatcher for all the hard work they've put in on this. I couldn't do what I do without them, so just wanted to say thanks.
But we appreciate y'all. At this time, I'm gonna go ahead and close if there's no other comment. I'm sorry, go ahead, Councilwoman Sproul.
I'm gonna pull from your experience of serving for a few years longer than the rest of us, Tim, Mayor Pro Tem. In the past, before we had the position that Mikhail serves in now, the Director of Finance, were y'all's budget meetings this detailed in the past before we had this put in place?
No, ma'am, there wasn't in no way, shape, form, or fashion. The answer would be no. And also, since this administration, we have an audit committee now that we didn't have in the past, which beforehand, prior years, I'll say, we had the fox guard and the hen house, so to speak, where now there is a go-between, and we meet quarterly, 3 or 4 times a year. It just depends on when it's needed. Okay, and we hear the good, the bad, and the ugly from the auditor, and it's not just filtered through the city manager or the finance director, and maybe fluffed up a little bit and got a little whipped cream on it and all that. This is the way it is, and we get to ask the questions. I happen to serve on that committee, and I'm happy to do it. And Councilman Walker serves with it on the committee also. So we do ask some tough questions, and we want answers for the council. And so when we come back, that we can report. So, but I appreciate you asking that.
Well, and to follow up, I think that since I've been involved and we've had Mr. Thatcher working for the city to help us, I can't imagine going forward if I'm able to continue to serve or whatever on the council, going back to the way y'all had it. I mean, I don't even, you know me, I don't even think it's enough now. I mean, but yet I know it's hugely transparent of the budget process, what we're spending money on, where it's going. I mean, I'm tickled to death, and I know I'm a hard-nosed budget gal, but I've always had to work hard for every dime of my family. I mean, we have to work with what we have, and sometimes we have to make hard decisions for our own lives. And I'm really, I mean, even to lower that tax rate just a fraction is a huge effort with and under Ed's leadership. I don't know what the city employees think about, especially the ones that were here prior to Ed's management, but I hope the city staff appreciates him, because I think he's incredible presenting to us the needs to take care of the employees of the city. We all want more. We all want more. We all want more. But I just want to thank him again in public, and I appreciate the structure that Mr. Thatcher helps to put in place so that we can try to have a well-run city, and we do. Everywhere I go that I'm a city council person and someone says something, I said, we got our problems, we got our dissenters, we got people that's never satisfied, but I'm tickled to have been a part of this for the last 3 years.
I just would also like to say, when we had the last budget workshop, one of the things that I stressed was people first and things second. I do want to thank you for taking the time to take care of the people first and the things second.
Well, we have a lot of responsibility serving on the council, and I think, and I take all I'm very, very serious, and I know all the council members do. But one of our big responsibilities is this budget. I mean, this affects every taxpayer in our city. And, we don't take it lightly. We scrutinize it, we discuss it, and sometimes maybe cuss it, and it's something that has to be, it's very important to all of us. So we appreciate the efforts, and we appreciate y'all, understanding when we question you, and we have a nice friendly debate sometimes as to why we think, the council thinks this or that. You know, we know, but at the end of the day, you know, we're looking out for employees, citizens, everyone, and we take it very serious in what we do. So we're happy to serve, and thank all of you again, department heads, everyone, all the behind the scene people. Okay.
I just want to say, and I don't necessarily want to keep up the kumbaya party, but I do want to say that you need to be, we understand as a staff who sets the direction and the policies for the city, and that's y'all, the city council, and we then try to implement it based on your directives. And this is setting a budget, like you said, is tremendously hard. It's a big responsibility. I know you guys take it. We've had our discussions over the last few years I've been here, and we haven't always agreed on things, but we've always tried to work with what we've got. But I just want to thank you all for this year, and you guys did say, hey, take care of our people. We had some fall way behind, and I just want to thank you all for this. This is not easy either, and we know you don't make quite that much money to serve here, and sometimes you lose business over your decisions and stuff. But so over the career I've seen the council, it's just a tough job, and I appreciate you all tonight.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and close our budget workshop if there are no other questions or concerns. Our second item on the agenda is the consideration and possible action regarding proposing a new tax rate for fiscal year 2022 through 2023 budget, and take a roll call vote.
Now we get to go to the fun part of the evening, where we get to follow all the truth and taxation rules and regulations. So, again, we've already gone through what the proposed budget rate is. What we're doing tonight is we are proposing a rate. We're letting all the citizens know what the rate is that we want to adopt in September, and we will post the notice in the paper and then set a date for the public hearing. We do have to read the rate in a special way when we do it. I believe y'all have a copy of that in front of you. So whoever proposes the motion has to propose it in that way, and then we'll take a roll call vote.
Thank you. So at this time, I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion that, excuse me, let me retract that. I move that the council propose a maintenance and operation rate of 0.261505 and a debt rate of 0.095980 and a cemetery rate of 0.0028 for a total property tax rate of 0.360285 per $100 of the assessed valuation.
We need to have you reread the debt rate. You put the decimal in the wrong place. So would you read the debt rate at 0.09?
A debt rate of 0.095980. Do I need to continue?
Is mine wrong? What he said was right? Mine says 0.09.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion made by Councilwoman Chappelle. We have a second by Councilman Adams. Madam Secretary, could you record the vote, please?
Aye.
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 Thank you, council. It was passed unanimously. With that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a consideration and possible action regarding the scheduled date for a public hearing on the proposed tax rate for the fiscal year 2023.
As required by law, we now have to set a public hearing on our tax rate. We recommend setting September 6th, which is a regularly scheduled council meeting, to be the date of the public hearing. It is the first council meeting in September.
Yeah, that's our so at this time, I'll ask for a motion. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Chappelle, second by Councilman Adam. Madam Secretary, would you record the vote, please?
Aye.
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 So Candace, when he says so moved, you're to add in the date that they read before that. I think you already know that, but.
Yeah, I was just fixing to say too that was approved in the September 6th, which is our regular city council meeting, the first Tuesday night at 6:30 when it'll be set. September 6th, 2022. Thank you, council.
The other thing, Candace, is that Mayor Pro Tem Dale's not supposed to vote tonight.
On this one, I won't vote. So our next item will be for the consideration and possible action regarding the scheduled date for the public hearing on the proposed annual operating budget for the fiscal year 2023.
According to our charter and local government code 2605, then we are required to have a public hearing on our budget to hear input from the public. I recommend September 6th, 2022, which again is also a regularly scheduled meeting, be set as the date for the public hearing on the budget.
Thank you. And just for the public, I am the Mayor Pro Tem, so when the mayor is present, I have a vote. But when I'm conducting a meeting, unless it's a tie, then my vote don't really count. Just for the public is to know what we're doing and why that was said. So with that, if I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Chappelle, second by Councilman Adam. Madam Secretary, would you record the vote, please?
Aye.
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 Thank you, council. It was approved unanimously. At this time, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. And that is the consideration and possible action regarding the scheduled date to set the final vote on the tax rate.
We are required by law to set a date to vote on the tax rate. However, it cannot be on the same date that you do the public hearing on the tax rate or the public hearing on the budget. So we recommend that a special meeting be called on September 13th, 2022 at 7 p.m. After the P&Z meeting.
Okay, does anyone have a conflict with that as far as prior scheduling somewhere with the council?
Say that again, what you just said.
It's going to be the September 13th. It would be the following Tuesday after that, after the P&Z meeting. Because you can adopt the tax rate on the same night you have the public hearing, and it has to be at least 7 days after.
And a maximum of how many days?
It can be no more than 10 days.
I think we've run into that in the past, if I recall right over the years. Does anyone have a conflict on that date there? I mean, that we could do it on the day before that or something, or?
I mean, we could do it Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday of that next week.
Okay, if no one has a conflict with that day at the council, if everyone can be present that night. Okay, at this time, then I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Seconded.
I have a motion by Councilman Chappelle, second by Councilman Walker. Madam Secretary, would you record the vote, please?
Well, we can have it at 6:30 then. Okay, we can do it at 6:30.
So that will be changed to 6:30, Madam Secretary.
Aye.
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 Thank you, council. It was approved unanimously for the meeting to be on September the 13th, Tuesday night at 6:30, following the P&Z meeting. With that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Texas Government Code. The City Council will recess into executive session, closed meeting, to discuss the following: real property, discuss purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Texas Government Code 551.072. At this time, we will go into executive session. It is now 9:12 p.m. We're out of executive session, and there was no action taken. And at this time, we will adjourn the meeting for the evening. Thank you for being here, and thank you for attending.